It started with these string lights that China sent, and they of course run down here, and not this fence post obviously, but the next one right inside the where the monsters live is where the controller box is, and it's got Wi-Fi and the whole thing. But the problem is the house is over there, and the signal not so great. So it was workable and usually worked. I have this problem during the nighttime where like a black cloud moves in and the Wi-Fi is terrible in the fringe areas. So we need to improve that. But then these lights came along. I haven't shown you them yet. There was a review video on them. But they got Wi-Fi and the whole thing also, and trying to set them up, and it's just not working. So we got to do a little bit better with the Wi-Fi. Maybe if you pick your tail up, it'll act as an antenna. What do you think? So I got this white thing on the wall, and none of the IoT devices, such as those two light sets out there, are on this network. Instead, I set them up differently. I set them up using the guest network on my wireless router, which is this old Netgear piece of junk that gets the job done. As you might expect, the signal from that thing is garbage, which is why I have that other access point on the wall. So I enlisted the help of another China product, this thing, which is a it's a Wi-Fi plug. It's a booster. Plugs in, receives your wireless network, and repeats it. It's a repeater. Got a button on it. It also has an Ethernet jack. We'll talk more about that in a second. So that was all set up. So the guest network, this picked up, rebroadcast it as an extension, and it was working great. It's got a blue light around it. And one day, it stopped working. I have two of these actually. This is the second one. So I thought that first one was going bad because when I check it, the light, which is blue and was not even visible because of aging and cheap blue LEDs, if I look at it in the dark, I could just barely see it, and the light was flashing on it, which means it's not connected. Why is it not connected? It's been working fine for months. I don't know. Maybe even years. So I said, well, you know, it's a piece of junk, so let me get the new one out of the box, and this one is. And the blue light actually works on it. And I hooked it up in exactly the same way. A day later, blue light flashing. Reset it. Day later, blue light flashing. And it just kept dropping the signal. So I said, you know what? Screw all this, okay? Enough with the guest network, enough with wireless repeaters and shit like that. This needs a goddamn wired fucking connection. It's got one. So I reconfigured it as an access point. The security of the guest network is now gone because that's wireless only, but we're going to make believe that never happened. So this is just a new thing that's broadcasting its own SSID that all of the IoT devices connect to, and that way, if they go out, I know the problem is here, rather than I have to go through the whole network. It's called network segmentation. It works. Because I always knew that when that light was flashing and nothing was working, the problem was right there. Well, like I said, it's got a Etherwebs connection. This lives in the kitchen, kind of where the other one does. And I had it plugged in there, and that was all working. And then I set up those spotlights around the rhododendron out there, and the performance was lackluster. And I said, you know what? It's time to do something about this already, instead of hoping it'll work every time. So I did. I enlisted the help of another product China sent me. This Comfast router, wireless sending thing, wireless thing. Okay? It's basically exactly that, with less features and firmware. Here is the device right here. Yay! I'm gonna win! Well, we'll see. Just a different form factor, but it does have long tennas on it. Now, are these tennas actually doing anything, or is the wire in it only that long? Great question. I don't know. But we're leaving it hooked up with a wired connection. That is something that I'm going to have to address further, but it's not really an issue at this very moment. So it's kind of working as it is. It plugs in. I think this comes off or something somehow, for some reason. I don't want to break it. It's supposed to do, put different for different countries or something. It does things. And it's got one button on it, the WPS button, which also acts as a reset. So I blundered. I did. I fucked up, and you know, I'm a big enough man to tell you when I fuck up. So I'm telling you, I hooked it up yesterday, and all it wants to do is grab a wireless signal and rebroadcast it. It just doesn't want to play nice. I said, no, I want to use the damn wire, and I want you to broadcast from that wire wirelessly, in the hopes that because of the longer tennas, it's going to actually work. I don't know if it will. I haven't had a chance to test it. It's been since yesterday. But like I said, I fucked up. I got it working, but we have kind of a little conflict of interest here. Comfast also happens to be the brand of that white thing on the wall in the kitchen. So as a precaution, I disconnected that. So I took out pretty much the majority of the wireless network in the house to get this to work, just temporarily. And I got this up, and it worked, and everything was good. But then I said, I want to change the SSID. So I started farting around in the thing there, and I found where to change it. So I said, okay, perfect. I'll set it to the same SSID that this thing had, and everything will, for the most part, just pick up and continue working, which is what's supposed to happen. It didn't. I ran around this house, and I had to reset all of the Amazon Echo devices, set them all up again. Couple of smart plugs, one or two of them needed to be reconfigured also, but that was about it. So it wasn't too bad. The reason that happened, I didn't set a password on that. This has a password on it. So that was my fuck up, and that's what caused me to have to reset all of the devices. So I'm back to do the job again, this time properly, after having a trial run. And we'll see if this thing actually will even allow me to create a password for it. I don't see why not. But, you know, the firmware on this thing is bad. All right? So the problem here is this will not fit in the outlets here. I also don't have an Ethernet drop here, but there happens to be a mysterious blue wire hanging over there, which is where I have an Ethernet drop. We're not going to need to see this device much in this setup process. It's all going to happen on the device. as much as I absolutely hate to say this and to do this, I'm going to use the fucking phone instead of a laptop to set it up. Only reason I'm doing that is I'm going to try a new recording technique in this video. My phone allows me to record the screen directly. We've all seen this before. Okay, this is, again, just like the old one I used to have. There is no service on this phone, no cellular service on this phone. It operates Wi-Fi only, but that's all we're going to need. So now what we're going to do is unplug the other wireless network. Nobody else is home, so it won't matter. We're going to set this up and hit the reset on it and try to get into the setup on this thing, and it didn't work like the book said. So let's hope. All right, first step, disconnect the network, the other wireless network. And that is as easy as disconnecting that one wire. That thing runs PoE, or power over Ethernet, so it has no power, no Ethernet, it's dead. Perfect. Ether webs, plug in, and this cord is handy because it won't fit in the outlet there either. Plug that in. It's got some blue lights on it. It's going to reset and do its whole thing, and hopefully it'll stay there. That's fine right there. That's good. Okay. Looks like it's trying to transfer data or do something. The Wi-Fi light flashes. Why? I don't know. Okay. Now we're going to reset it by holding the button down for 10 seconds. Nothing happens when you do this. It just kind of, like you'd think the lights would go out and come back on or something. They don't do anything. It just kind of sits there like this. So that's definitely 10 seconds. We'll let go. Good. Okay, so now we're recording, screen recording with the phone. We're going to go here to the Wi-Fi. And yes, that is the one that we want to go to, and magically it's connected. Now, I think this worked the other day. If I hit that and go to Manage Router, and now the instructions were very tricky here, and I'll read you exactly what it says if I can find it. Enter the default password admin and click login. So theoretically no username and password, just admin. But it doesn't work. I don't get it. I don't understand. So I'm gonna play around until I get logged in. Okay, I think I know what's going on. You now see it says connected without internet. I think if I do this setup without the EtherWebs cable connected, it won't interfere with the rest of the network, which is, I'm hoping, what the problem was. Manage. Aha! There you go. It worked. Okay, password. Admin. Login. Alright, we gotta wait this out. This is what I set up yesterday, so we are definitely on the right track, and I'm very happy about that. Okay, so now it wants me to pick a Wi-Fi network. I don't want any of that shit. Hit the settings, advanced. Set SSID. There we go. Now I can make this what it used to be. We have to get rid of capitals. I hate that about the damn phone. Wi-Fi plug underscore extension. Is there a space after that? Yeah, that's not good. Don't want that. Okay, apply. Set SSID successfully. Okay, now we got to wait for this. Yeah. There's so much left out of the book. Such lackluster firmware, but once it's set up, it'll continue to work. And I've had very good luck with the other device. So now we'll go into the Wi-Fi, and we'll go to Wi-Fi plug extension. One of these years, maybe. It said it worked. Now it's trying again. I might have to just unplug it and try it again. Yeah, it's just not. It just says connecting, and it shouldn't be saying connecting. It should just connect, and that's it. Okay, let's put the phone down, and I'll unplug it and plug it back in. Okay, it's been reset, and it's got a boot. Maybe it's booted by now. Great. It worked yesterday. Arg. Let's plug an Etherwebs cable into it. Alright, it's got a blinkety light. Oh, look at that. Now magically it's fucking connected. Well, they didn't tell you any of this shit. Alright. So we'll go back here and and enjoy your Wi-Fi life. Okay. What are you telling me? I don't want messages now. All right. Let's see. There was something that said state. Hello? Okay. All right, let's go back to advanced. Oh, good. Now it doesn't work again. Okay, good. I'm going to play around some more. Okay, so obviously nothing worked, so we're starting over. Back on ComFast. We're going to go back to advanced, and down at the bottom, security mode setting. Should I try to update the firmware? Probably not. Okay, great. So set security mode and then okay. What? How do you set? Can you set a password? Does it not have this functionality? That's all you get. See, like I said, the firmware is atrocious. Okay, it says reconnect to it. All right, so let's go to Wi-Fi. Hello, Wi-Fi. Connecting. Still no Etherwebs cable connected to it. But it didn't even ask for a password. And now it won't connect to it. Great. Wow. Okay. I got it working, because this is Jay. Found something out over here. The instructions, like I said, they really don't say anything. They go into even less. So that's all good. Comes with an Etherwebs cable. That's good to have. And that's it. But take a look at this. I thought it was kind of interesting. Where I saw it somewhere. Okay, I don't remember where I saw it. It was somewhere. Basically, long and short of the story was this thing was not designed to do what I wanted it to do. Somewhere I saw it said that it's simply a range extender or a WifiBlast. So long and short of it is, you saw all the trouble I had on the phone and that. It's now working and it's correct and everything is good. And let me go into the Wi-Fi. I'll just show you through the camera here because that's all you need. We are connected to Wi-Fi plug extension. Exactly what we need. I have not plugged the other access point back in. Let me do that just for completeness. There's all my networks back. Connected to Wi-Fi plug extension, which is this new thing. The old ComFast is back as I plug that back in. The original Netgear Wi-Fi plug, and that's my printer. So it's all there. So the question is, how did I make this work? Well, like I said, the instructions sucked and that didn't help. Can't set any settings whatsoever. So I decided to play the big fat dumb American consumer and say, I need a Wi-Fi blast. I need a booster. And I say, yeah, here's my wireless network. Boost it. So it said, okay, great, yeah, so there's your original Wi-Fi plug network. What do you want to do? You want to extend that? Okay. What do you want to call it? So I named it properly, and it took that. It said, what's the password for your existing Wi-Fi network? I put that in, and it took it. It said, okay, it's rebooting, blah, blah, blah. And then it simply wouldn't connect to the new device. Isn't that nice? Unplug it, plug it back in, play the game, wait for it to reset. Nothing, didn't work, nothing at all. Plug the Ethernet wire into it. Unplug it from electrical, plug it back in. Then it worked. It connected to it. Everything was good, but the question is, where is it getting the data? Is it getting it over the Ethernet wire? Or is it simply boosting the original network? So I went into the setup of my existing Netgear router and I disabled that. Tested the Wi-Fi plug extension network once again, and yes, indeed, everything worked. So a workaround of a workaround of a workaround, and now it works around. I have not tested all of the devices in the house yet. I've done the main floor. I tested all that stuff. The outside lights, that works. But here begs the question, okay? When I go and I set up these Wi-Fi plugs and stuff, it asks for, okay, what network are we setting this on? So I tell it, Wi-Fi plug extension. Great, what's the password? I put it in. Okay, hang on, we're setting it up, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, great, what do you want to call it? Smart plug. Good, here you go, on, off. And it works. But then when I fucked up yesterday, and made the same network, same SSID, but now no password. They continued working, most of the smart plug devices. That's interesting. Why does it suddenly not need a password? Is it simply because it wasn't asking to authenticate? I don't know that information, but something very stinky fishy about that. Very, very stinky fishy. Odd, indeed. And now I set this up. I had to reconfigure all of the Amazon Echo devices, and what did I test? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6? 6 of them so far. And now these same devices I had to reconfigure, now that it has the password back, don't need reconfiguring again. So what's the password for? That's weird. I can't figure that out. But the good news is it now works. So this now will be on standby. If that new thing craps out, direct drop-in replacement, and it'll be back to how it was. How is the performance of this thing? I don't know. I got to put it in the kitchen where it's going to go again. Last night it was set up without the password, and things were real snappy. If I asked the Amazon Echo to turn something on or off, bam! She did it. Really nice and quick. That's good, I guess. How does it work with the outside lights? I don't know yet. It's kind of hard to see them during the day. That's one. 2, I haven't put it back in the kitchen yet where it'll have at least a fighting chance. And L is the patio lights that I have in the screen room. It so turns out the Wi-Fi plug for that crapped out over the winter. It was totally dead to the world. I didn't record it, but I took it apart. It was well sealed. There was no sign of water ingress or anything. Everything was still there and exactly as it were, and yet didn't work. It was just totally dead to the world. There was no fuse on it, and those bastards used a tri-wing bit or tri-wing screws to open it. That didn't stop me because I got that. In fact, I had a video on that a long time ago. Non-replaceable parts are in fact replaceable. Link in the prescription to that, where I actually showed the tri-wing bit. And it used those for some reason. They just didn't want you getting in there. That device was made by Teckin, T-E-C-K-I-N. They sold all kinds of smart light globes and smart plugs and this and that. They had all different stuff, all different kinds of smart plugs, different packs, colors, designer colors, all kinds of crazy shit. And they were great stuff for the most part. They had power strips that were Wi-Fi. You could set each outlet to be its own switch, and it had USB. You could turn that on and off even. They implemented everything. But they had too many, they got caught having too many fake reviews on Amazon and got kicked off the platform. And as such, they still exist. They have their own website, and you could buy stuff from them, but it's free shipping on orders $35 and up. So because Amazon no longer has it, unfortunately, I couldn't call the Amazon Forever warranty into play. So I had to actually go and buy a new one. Now, I've reviewed others, but those are actually in service. So I didn't have one. See, the thing with that is it dims, and I like that. And the other two that I have it connected to, the other two that I had that are in service, also dim, and I like that function. So I didn't want to give any of that up, so I actually had to bite the bullet, and I bought a new one. Found it for 14 bucks. It works with the Smart Life app, which is good because all the rest of my stuff works with that. So when it gets here later today, and now that all of the Amazon Echoes are back online, it'll give me a notification. When it comes in, I can plug that in, set it up through the app, and that she'll know about it because it's all integrated like that. And then everything is golden. Wow, this was a hell of a ride. Trying to get a device that had the worst firmware I've ever seen to just work out of the box, it didn't even want to. It did back in the day when I originally had the video on this. I'll put a link in the description to that as well. But, and I'll give you one for this too, in case you wanted to see that. Probably also no longer available. The firmware sucked. This one was a failed product as far as I'm concerned, especially with this kind of setup and all the hoops I had to fucking jump through. But I made it work in the end, and that's what counts. So, how well it's going to work? Well, I don't know yet. I'll find out later on. But at least it's in service, in place, and ready to go. And I have a backup, which is also important. And I also have the first one of these, which I also did plug in with the Etherwebs, and it started working just fine. So I actually have two backups all set to go. Anyway, that's going to do it for now. As far as the actual wire for that, I'll give you a little teaser. There are a total of 4 wires here that lead up to the kitchen. One is cable TV that feeds the cable box in there. And the other 3 are internet. Actually, not really. One was supposed to be a serial over Ethernet cable, and the plan for that, which was very early on when I moved into the house, never came to fruition and won't be coming to fruition because it's just a non-issue, and it's a long story. I had a particular printer that worked over serial that was thermal, and as far as getting paper for it, the product was not really meant for the US. I still have it. It still works with whatever paper I have. Maybe one day I'll show that. But it was going to be hooked up to the print server, which has been offline for a few years now because I barely even print anything. And it's dead. I got to fix it. But besides that, the Ethernet line, which would be serving serial data, which it kind of actually does, is going to be reconverted to that. So like I said, there's 3 lines. There's a beige one that goes to the original Comfast access point, a green one which feeds a PC that sits on the kitchen counter, and there's a blue one. The blue one is actually an extension cable with a coupler to a red cable, and that's going to be real easy to spot. And that red cable is not a crossover cable. It's actually a straight through that is red. Back in the day, the convention for crossovers were typically red cables, but they're almost not even used anymore today. But anyway, it's real easy to spot, and instead of going to the print server to a serial port through a converter, it will simply plug into the patch panel, and there we go. But the PC on the counter is not really being used and hasn't been for years. I keep meaning to resurrect it. There's actually nothing wrong with it. I just stopped using it. But it would be good to get it up and running again. But other technology is kind of taking its place, such as the Amazon Echo that's in there. So if I want to listen to the Shoutcast, I can just ask her. Instead of booting up the PC and playing it locally, I'll just listen to an ad, and by the time the music comes on, I'm drunk anyway. Something like that. Anyway, that's going to wrap this up. Again, how well it's going to work, In the house, it worked great. As far as outside, hey, listen, I have other options in the event it doesn't want to Wi-Fi to the Wi-Fi things. So we'll see, but this was a success. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I know this was a lot of talk and not much action, but sometimes I just got to get work done when things don't cooperate, and I have to bang them into submission. Anyway, there we go. Thanks again. I really appreciate it. Make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe, and take care. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.